So today we will see this suspension emulsion chapter. They are known as a biphasic dosage form. Monophasic dosage form means if drug is completely soluble in the solvent. In case of your liquid oral syrup, elixirs, linctus, etc., etc., liniments. So in that drug is totally soluble in the solvent in the vehicle. So that's why that is a monophasic dosage form. So you cannot differentiate. You cannot distinguish between the drug and solvent because उसमें क्या है कि drug is completely soluble in the vehicle. That's why it is a monophase or one phase system. That is known as a monophasic dosage form. But suspension and emulsion they are known as a biphasic dosage form because in this suspension and emulsion, in the suspension, solid particles they are suspended in a liquid. Okay, in which they are not soluble, they are suspended. Okay, they are suspended. That's why two phase system exists. In the emulsion, simply oil and water. So oil and water they are immiscible to each other, but they are brought together in the one system known as an emulsion. So fine droplets of your oil is dispersed into the water. So again there exists a two phase. So that's why suspension, emulsion they are known as a biphasic system. Whereas a solution known as a monophasic dosage form. Right? Solution will take it later on. Today we will see about the suspension and emulsion. To okay, say before before understanding these chapters, so you should know about the surface tension interfacial phenomena. We have already seen that. In a short, I would like to revise. Consider a water molecule in a beaker. Above the water, you have air, right? Air. Below, okay, in the water molecule, in the bulk of beaker, in the bulk of liquid. So water molecule is there. So this water molecule. Consider this water molecule, which is in a bulk. So it is attracted equally from all sides by other water molecule. Equally attracted from all sides. So that will total force spent by this molecule is a nullified because it is being equally attracted from all sides. But consider this molecule which is on a surface. So this molecule will feel attraction from left side, right side, equal attraction, but that is a nullified. So net attraction will be downward. Now this downward pull is known as surface tension. Now surface tension will try to maintain this okay, surface area. Will try to maintain a minimum surface area of the molecule, right? So this is surface tension, right? So in the suspension you have insoluble drug which is dispersed as a fine particles in the dispersion medium or in the continuous space. So that's why two phase system. So in between the liquid, in between the vehicle and solid, there is just an interface. Okay. Now monophasic dosage form means in that you will not find a interface or you will not find a surface. Now normally surface is found, it is a boundary between solid particle and air, or it is a boundary between liquid और air. Liquid air के बीच में या फिर तो solid and liquid के बीच में क्या होता है, surface होता है. But between two immiscible liquid there is a thin layer known as a interface. Between solid and liquid there is a thin layer also known as a interface. Okay, so biphasic liquid dosage form suspensions are nothing but the biphasic liquid dosage form in which solid particles are dispersed or suspended into a dispersion medium. Now these solid particles, whatever suspended are there, they are known as dispersed phase or internal phase. Now whatever solution or whatever dispersion medium or continuous phase. So dispersion medium is also known as a continuous phase or dispersion medium, okay, or external phase. तो dispersion medium को ही अपन है ना बोलते हैं external phase, है ना. इंटरनल फेज किसको बोलेंगे यहाँ पे, सॉलिड पार्टिकल, सस्पेंडेड सॉलिड पार्टिकल, और डिस्पर्स्ड फेज, इसको डिस्पर्स्ड फेज बोलेंगे सॉलिड पार्टिकल को, और इंटरनल फेज, राइट. और डिस्पर्शन मीडियम it is also known as an external phase or continuous phase, right. Now suspension are the dosage form consisting of two pages, okay, which is one phase is known as a continuous phase or external phase, which is a liquid in this case. तो सस्पेंशन में एक्सटर्नल फेज या फिर कंटिन्यूअस फेज लिक्विड होता है. इन जनरल लिक्विड, ओके. व्हाट इज द एक्सटर्नल फेज? इट इज इन जनरल either it is a liquid or semi solid. So continuous phase. Now another phase is a dispersed phase, dispersed or internal phase. Now it is made from a particles, okay, particles or particulate matter which is insoluble but it can be dispersed throughout the continuous phase. So that is the suspension. Now size, इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आता है, what is the size of, okay, size of suspension. So size in a dispersed phase, most of the oral pharmaceutical suspension will have particle size in a range between 1 to 50 micron. Particle size range कितना है suspension का? 1 to 50 micron. Okay, so important है ये. Okay, so there are different form of suspension. Okay, so for example, foam is a kind of suspension. So in which foam is also kind of suspension. So liquid dispersed in the air is a foam. Aerosol is also kind of suspension. Okay. Solid or liquid in the gas, that is aerosol. Okay. Then system with the particle size less than 0.1 to 0.2 micron. अगर किसी में 0.1 0.2 micron की particle है, now it is considered as a colloidal dispersion. Okay, that is considered as a colloidal dispersion, and that exhibit properties in between molecular solution and suspension. We have already seen in the colloid chapter. Okay. Right. Now types of suspension. So इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ चुका है, what is a core suspension? So in the core suspension particle size is more than 1 micrometer. अगर 1 micrometer से ज्यादा particle size है तो उसको बोलेंगे core suspension. दूसरा होता है colloidal dispersion, particle size less than 1 micron. क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. Then nano suspension will have particle size in the range of 10 to 100 nanometer. तो याद रखना है सस्पेंशन का इंट्रोडक्शन पार्ट एंड टाइप्स ऑफ सस्पेंशन. Now suspension, emulsion both are the biphasic dosage form and for their they are well known for their own property. तो सस्पेंशन इमल्शन में क्या होता है कि दे आर द बाइफेजिक डोसेज फॉर्म. उनमें एक प्रॉपर्टी तो होता है, कौन सा प्रॉपर्टी? सो दे हैव बाउंड्री रीजन बिटवीन टू फेजेस, है ना. जैसे सस्पेंशन में क्या होता है, सॉलिड एंड लिक्विड, उसके बीच में बाउंड्री होता है. इमल्शन में क्या होता है, लिक्विड और लिक्विड, इमिसिबल लिक्विड, उन दोनों के बीच में बाउंड्री होता है. तो सस्पेंशन इमल्शन दे आर कैरेक्टराइज्ड बाय वन कैरेक्टरिस्टिक नोन एज अ बाउंड्री रीजन बिटवीन टू फेजेस. insoluble solid in case of suspension, insoluble solid will meet at a liquid at an interface. In case of emulsion, interface is formed between two immiscible liquids, for example oil and water. Interface will have positive free energy. जो interface होता है, so there we will have positive free energy and that is enough. Okay, that is enough plus, not in a minus. So that's why at the interface the molecules will try to attain a minimum surface area. Okay, so and molecule at a interface they will have at a higher energy state. जो normally bulk of liquid में जो molecules होते हैं और interface में जो molecule होते हैं, so in molecule at interface will have higher energy state than the molecule located in the bulk of phase. Okay? If molecules prefers to remain in the bulk, अगर जो liquid है उसका molecules prefers to remain in the bulk as compared to interface, then it will have higher interfacial free energy. If molecules prefers to remain in the interface than bulk of liquid, it will have a lower interfacial free energy. Effective formulation of suspension involve the now this free energy. Okay, so the main important task of formulator is nothing but to decrease this free positive energy. Suspension involves the reduction of this free positive energy value up to the zero. ये वैल्यू जीरो करना है, बिकॉज जितना ज्यादा इंटरफेशियल के ऊपर फ्री पॉजिटिव एनर्जी रहेगा उतना ज्यादा आपका सिस्टम अनस्टेबल रहेगा. You have to stabilize it for a longer period of time so that it can withstand with the shelf life, right? So effective formulation of suspension that involves the reduction of free positive energy by various approaches, by various means. So उसके लिए different different mean होते हैं. For example, you can reduce the amount of interface. You can reduce the amount of or surface area of interface, okay, by flocculation, by flocculation, or by aggregation of suspension, or by coalescence of globules to form a macrophase for emulsion. तो जो मॉलिक्यूल्स होते हैं ना इंटरफेस के अराउंड जो मॉलिक्यूल है एट द इंटरफेस मॉलिक्यूल, so they will have free energy. Interface will have free energy, free positive energy, because the molecules at the interface they have a different energy state. They are having higher energy state than the molecules present in the bulk. Okay, so there is another interface. Interface will have free positive energy, and you have to reduce that free positive energy to get a stable suspension. Right now, there are a lot of ways to decrease that. So you can, okay, you can reduce the interfacial area, or you can reduce the interfacial area by flocculation, by aggregation, or by coalescence of globules. Another way is there by addition of surface activation, by addition of surfactant. So you can also add surfactant to the this, so that the interfacial free energy will tends to become a zero. Right now, this surfactant, if this surfactant in a liquid, it can surfactant in a liquid can be as a single molecule. Surfactant जो अड़ गया है वो liquid में single molecule भी रह सकता है. Right now it can get at a interface also. Interface के ऊपर जा सकता है. Right? Whatever surfactant added, so that can aggregate, वो aggregate भी हो सकता है, and that can form a aggregate or known as a micelle. That can also form a micelle. So the concentration of surfactant at which there is a formation of micelle known as a critical micelle concentration, we have already seen. So these are the different ways to reduce the interfacial free energy. Now interfacial free energy can be reduced by either flocculation, or by aggregation of suspended particles, or by coalescence of globules in case of emulsion, or by adding the surfactant. Right? Now suspensions are nothing but the heterogeneous system of two phases. Liquid is known as a continuous phase or external phase. Solid is known as a dispersed phase or internal phase. Now, molecular dispersion will have particle size in range of less than 1 nanometer. Colloidal dispersion will have 0.1 to 0.2, and coarse dispersion will have particle size more than the 0.2 micrometer. Is suspension. इसको ही suspension बोलते हैं, coarse dispersion. Particles may be present in the form of deflocculated, that is a individual particle. Okay, particles in the suspension may be found or may be present in the form of, जो सस्पेंशन में पार्टिकल होते हैं वो भी कैसे हो सकते हैं, इंडिविजुअल पार्टिकल. सो पार्टिकल में बी देयर इन अ सस्पेंशन, इंडिविजुअल पार्टिकल known as a deflocculated, so individual single particle, or particle in the suspension may be in the form of floccules or aggregates or loose particle network known as a flocculated suspension. So there are two types of suspensions, flocculated and deflocculated. Deflocculated मतलब क्या, particle will behave or will exist as an individual entity, but in the flocculated suspension there is an aggregation of particle, there is a loose aggregation or loose agglomerate or loose particle network formation is there, known as a deflocculated suspension. तो फ्लॉकुलेटेड सस्पेंशन जो है ना उसका शेल्फ लाइफ ज्यादा होता है, बिकॉज फ्लॉकुलेटेड सस्पेंशन दो इट विल सेटल डाउन इजीली, बट अपॉन द शेकिंग इट विल रीडिस्पर्स इजीली. राइट, बट डीफ्लॉकुलेटेड सस्पेंशन एक बार सेटल हो गया तो पूरा केक बनता है उसका. Am I audible to you? Yes, am I audible? Am I audible to you? Okay. Now there are different kind of suspension. You know, oral suspension are there, then topical suspensions are there, then your parenteral suspensions are there. Okay, so suspensions, they are classified into different type depending on their use, right? So oral suspensions mostly they are containing a higher amount of solid. ओरल सस्पेंशन जो होता है उसमें हायर अमाउंट ऑफ सॉलिड हो सकता है 20 to 30%. इसका अमाउंट होता है 20 to 30%. ओके, सो अमाउंट नहीं लिखा यहाँ पे, आप लिख लो 20 to 30%. सॉरी, इट मे बी अप टू 50%. 50%. एक एंटीबायोटिक, एंटासिड, रेडियो ओपेक सस्पेंशन, सिरप. ओके, so preparation containing antacids, radio opaque antibiotics, so you can have concentration of your particles up to 50%. So in the oral suspension the suspended particle may be up to 50% in case of antibiotic. Now the dispersion medium used is nothing but the syrup, sorbitol solution, or gum thickened water containing artificial sweeteners. That will be vehicle. If suspension consists of a low stability shelf life, then solid will be formulated as a dry granules. अगर वो suspension का shelf life कम है, तो you can also formulate that suspension instead of directly formulating suspension. Just use all the ingredient except vehicle and pack in the bottle as a dry powder. And then before use you have to formulate, or you have to mix a water in that powder and shake well, so you will get an immediate suspension. So that is known as a premix. बहुत सारे एंटीबायोटिक के बॉटल देखो आप, उसमें एक पाउडर होता है सिर्फ, उसके साथ में एक स्टेराइल वाटर दिया होता है. तो आप जब लेते हो उसको, आपको घर पे जाके वो मिक्स करना पड़ता है, वो स्टेराइल वाटर प्लस वो बॉटल में डाल के शेक करना पड़ता है. तो यू हैव टू मेक सस्पेंशन बिफोर टेकिंग. पहले तो वो ड्राई ग्रैन्युल होता है. सो इफ suspension consists of a low stability shelf life solid, then you have to formulate as a dry granules water mixture to reconstitute with the water for injection before use. जो वाटर होता है स्टेराइल वाटर और वाटर फॉर इंजेक्शन, उसके साथ में ये रिकंस्टिट्यूट करना पड़ता है. द सरफेस एक्टिव एजेंट, as I told you, surface active agent are used in case of suspension and emulsion. Now surface active agent or that surfactant, okay, different boundary region may be present in the different site in the solution. कैसे ऐसा? So say for example this one is a surface active agent, this one is a surfactant. Now it may be present in the liquid in the boundary, or it may be present in a different form. For example, you can see over here surface active agents, they are oriented at the air water surface. Surface active agent, they are oriented or they are at the air water surface. Now surface active agent, they will orient at the oil water interface. Oil water interface. Say for example, अगर oil water है, emulsion है, तो surface active agent will orient themselves like this. So surface active agent orient at a oil water interface. Or surface active agent, they may aggregate and they may orient themselves in the form of mycelium like this. Mycelium बना सकते हैं, mycelium aggregation of surface active agent, or they may be present individually at a surface, जैसे like this. Particles or insoluble particle in the water, they may present as a suspended particle. So for example, surface active agent may be present between the bulk of liquid, or it may present, or it may assist the suspension. Particle may be suspended like this. The addition of surface active agent will lead to this. Parenteral, अपने oral suspension देखा है. Now parenteral suspension, इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ चुका है एक बार. What is the solid content limit of parenteral suspension? Good. The solid content present in the parenteral suspension. Parenteral suspension मतलब क्या? This is a suspension used for the injection. Suspension used for the injection. Parenteral suspension. Obviously parenteral suspension है तो obviously it should be sterile, it should be pyrogen free वगैरह. It should be prepared under the aseptic technique वगैरह. वो बाकी सब को include होंगे. Now the solid content present in the suspension used for parenterally, so it is in a range of 0.5 to 0.5 to 5%. याद रखो 0.5 to 5%. Exception is there, antibiotic. So penicillin suspension may have up to 30% solid. Normally parenteral suspension में particle का size range क्या होता है 0.5 to 5% particles रहेंगे उसमें. Okay, मतलब solid content ranges from 0.5 to 5%, but in some cases like antibiotics, it may be up to 30%. अगर oral है तो it may be up to 50%, right? Parenteral suspension must be sterile and should have low viscosity. Viscosity कम क्यों चाहिए? अगर viscosity कम नहीं होगा तो inject कैसे करेंगे? Right? Now commonly used vehicle for making the parenteral suspension is nothing but the different type of water body injection, etc., etc. Then your sodium chloride, and should be isotonic with the blood plasma. Whatever vehicle you are using should be isotonic with the blood plasma. Mostly 0.9% sodium chloride is used over the vehicle, or sometimes you also can use different type of vegetable oils. But oily injections are little bit painful. Topical suspension. So you might have seen calamine lotion. Calamine lotion जो होता है, that is one of the topical suspension. It is the oldest formulation with the high solid content up to more than 20%. High solid content should have dermatological acceptability. मतलब ये dermatologically compatible चाहिए. There should not be any dermatological allergic reaction. These are the different type of suspension: oral suspension, topical suspension, parenteral suspension. These are the different type of suspension. Now, to understand the suspension formulation effectively, you should understand this weighting phenomenon. Weighting phenomenon we have already seen in the college chapter. For the effective formulation and stability, you should understand this weighting phenomenon. Right? Solids are either classified into hydrophilic or lipophilic. Hydrophilic मतलब क्या है? Solid are either hydrophilic. Hydrophilic मतलब solvent loving, or also known as a lyophilic. Solvent loving or lyophilic, or and they are easily weighted. मतलब ये पूरा weight हो जाएगा easily. ये weighting मतलब क्या है? Weighting means formation of a layer around the solid particle by a liquid known as a weighting. So a peeling, okay, and dispersion of lyophilic particles will increase the viscosity of water. Or solid may be hydrophobic or lyophobic, or it is a poorly weighted. ये poor weight होगा, उनका weighting proper नहीं, and they will have less viscosity and needs a weighting agent to make a suspension. Now contact angle is indicator of weighting. No. Contact angle जो होता है वो indicate करता है weighting phenomenon, कितना weighting है. Now contact angle is normally is in a range of 0 to 180 degree. इसके रेंज में contact angle होता है. Okay, contact angle in a range of 0 to 180. Low contact angle अगर है, if there is a low contact angle between particle and liquid, so that means there is a good adhesive force. There is a good adhesive force between the solid particle and liquid. And there is a good weighting. Now, if high weighting angle is there, that means there is a less adhesive forces between the liquid and solid, and therefore incomplete weighting or poor weighting. So that is given by Young's equation. तो याद रखना आपको, यहाँ पे एक क्वेश्चन आ सकता है आपको. Young equation is the basis of weighting, and based upon the change in the free energy caused by increase in the area of solid weighted by liquid. According to this, if contact angle between solid and liquid is less than 90, so there is a strong interaction between solid and liquid, and weighting occurs. Contact angle इससे ज़्यादा है, more than 90, there is a poor weighting. So that is a Young equation. तो आपको क्वेश्चन आ सकता है Young equation is related with the weighting. So at the formation of electrical double layer, we already seen in the emulsion chapter, suspension emulsion, colloid and surface tension. We already seen formation of electrical double layer, right? So what happens? Suppose आपने जो surfactant ऐड किया है, if surfactant is used as a weighting agent, इसको भी weighting agent बोलें, that will decrease the contact angle between solid and liquid, and it will increase the weighting phenomenon. So surfactant is used as a wetting agent. Now surfactant are of three type है ना, दो तीन टाइप के होते हैं. Anionic surfactant we have already seen, cationic surfactant we have seen, then non-ionic surfactant, anionic. Now if ionic surfactants are added to a suspend, anionic surfactant added, ionic surfactant are added to a colloid. Now what happen? So at the boundary between solid and liquid, so अगर if in the liquid anionic surfactants are present, cationic, so mostly positive charge containing surfactants they get adsorbed on a solid particle. Now against that there is a formation of one layer of positive charges on the solid particle. तो उसके solid particle के ऊपर positive charge का एक layer बनेगा, because वहाँ पे क्या है, सर्फेक्टेंट का जो पॉजिटिव चार्ज कंटेनिंग सर्फेक्टेंट है उसके मॉलिक्यूल वहां पे जाके एक लेयर बनाते हैं. तो जो पॉजिटिव लेयर बना है तो वो नेगेटिव लेयर को, नेगेटिव आयन को अट्रैक्ट करता है. तो पॉजिटिव आयन पहले, उसके बाद में नेगेटिव आयन, इसको बोलते हैं अपन स्टर्न लेयर. सो दैट इज नोन एज स्टर्न लेयर. सो बाद में क्या होता है, आफ्टर दैट देयर इज अगेन equal amount of positive and negative ions known as a diffuse layer. And dBl length is nothing but when this diffusion occurs, when this movement of this layer occurs, so the distance is known as a dB length. Lyophilic material in a suspension are sensitive. Okay. Lyophilic, I will explain this in a upcoming slide, don't worry. Already आपने देखा है. Now lyophobic material, or you can say colloidal suspension, colloidal dispersion, they are sensitive to the added electrolyte. अगर lyophobic suspension में आपने electrolyte ऐड किया तो immediately क्या होगा, precipitation और coagulation. But lyophilic are not sensitive to the electrolyte. If you add a small amount of electrolyte in the lyophobic material or suspension, lyophobic particles, there is a coagulation and caking. But it is not true with the lyophilic. Lyophilic में क्या है, you will require a large amount of ions to coagulate the suspension. Now if you add water and oil, so there is a oil and water, there exists a interface. यहाँ पे water है, सब water के ऊपर oil है. Now you know that water has a density of 1. वाटर का डेंसिटी कितना होता है, वाटर का डेंसिटी होता है 1, एंड ऑयल का होता है 0.9, ऑयल का होता है 0.9, डेंसिटी ऑफ ऑयल इज 0.9, ऑयल वाटर का होता है 1, है ना. सो देयर इज अ चेंज इफ यू प्लेस ऑयल इन वाटर. ओके, सो देयर एग्जिस्ट ए इंटरफेस, बट एट द इंटरफेस देयर इज अ चेंज इन द डेंसिटी. ओके, चेंज इन द डेंसिटी ऑफ ऑयल का 0.9 divided by water का होता है 1. You can say this one is oil and this one is water. Oil and water का ये interface है. So the length of or the distance of interfacial surface. Okay? तो interface is nothing मतलब क्या होता है कि there is a reach in the particles. Interface के ऊपर particle एक side पे oil के particle ज़्यादा होंगे, एक side पे water के ज़्यादा होंगे. Okay? So that's why density will decrease. Okay, like this, density will decrease like this. So mathematically अगर आप separate करेंगे mathematically, there is a distance between, there is a difference in the density of oil and water. ये oil का density, ये water का density, but at the interface, so exactly उतना नहीं होता difference. Exactly there is a very small little difference. Interfacial region. Okay, so you can see over here, there is a at the interface. Okay, there is a मटेरियल, ऑयल का डेंसिटी है 0.9, वाटर का है 1, बट इंटरफेस के ऊपर है ना, ऑयल का डेंसिटी ड्रास्टिकली चेंज नहीं होता. ड्रास्टिकली चेंज नहीं हो रहा है, एंड स्लोली मतलब कुछ मॉलिक्यूल्स का डेंसिटी है ना, कुछ मॉलिक्यूल का डेंसिटी 0.9 है, कुछ के उसकी कम है, कुछ के नियर बाय 1 है. सो लाइक दैट. नाउ दिस स्मॉल डिफरेंस इज नोन एज अ इंटरफेशियल रिस्क, known as interfacial. Now you see, as I told you, electrical properties. This is a solid particle. यहाँ पे क्या है, solid particle. So if there is some cations, because cations, they are attracted towards the solid particle. They will form a layer like this. And this cation will attract an NPO anion like this. This layer is known as external layer. External layer. And above this, again few positive and negative particles are there, and that is known as a diffuse layer. That is known as diffuse layer. This is a bulk of solution. And we have already seen the DLVO theory. DLVO theory. DLVO theory. Tarjagoin, Landau, Overbeck and Overway and Overbeck theory. DLVO theory. DLVO theory. We have seen particle-particle interaction. Okay? Particle-particle interaction. We have seen. But remember, at the secondary minimum, there is a aggregation of particles, and this is known as a force of flocculation. At a low concentration of electrolyte, primary minimum is there. At a low concentration of electrolyte, so there is a attractive forces are there. Attractive forces will dominate the repulsive forces at the low concentration, and there is a aggregation. Intermediate amount of electrolyte, intermediate concentration of electrolyte, so there is a primary maximum. Primary. So here repulsive forces will dominate, and there is a at this repulsive forces suspension will not coagulate, will not so the at a low concentration, attractive forces at low concentration of electrolyte, attractive forces will dominate the repulsive forces, and there is an aggregation. At an intermediate concentration of electrolyte, in case of lyophobic colloid, so in case of lyophobic colloid, intermediate concentration of electrolyte will cause this primary maximum. There is a distance, there is a repulsive forces in between two particles. Particle aggregation कब होगा? When there is attractive forces between the two particles, there is an aggregation of particles. So that occurs at a primary minimum. Primary maximum, there is no aggregation of particle. Particle will be individually. There is repulsive forces. Again, at a high concentration of electrolyte, again you will get a secondary minimum. So here also controlled aggregation of particle occurs. Controlled aggregation. Here only. So this is used for flocculation. Now we'll see the next. This is theoretical consideration because the consideration for suspension. If you want to read, you can read more in the books. The types of suspension, oral suspension होता है अपन ने देखा है. The solid particles of drug is dispersed in the vehicle, sweetened and flavored, sometimes colored, usually viscous vehicle, and it is expressed as a API per 5 ml. Mostly antacid, radio opaque suspensions, they are usually having high content of solid, high dispersed solid content, up to 50% up to 50% solid content. Topical suspension is maybe topical application like lotions for dermatology and cosmetic purpose. So they should be compatible, dermatologically tested. Parenteral suspension, so they usually consist of 0.5 to 30% solid content, 0.5 to 5%, but in case of your antibiotics, they may go up to 30%. Most of parenteral suspensions are designed for the intramuscular subcutaneous injection. They are not terminally sterilized. Aerosols we already seen. Liposomes, micro and nanoparticles. Liposomes, microsomes and nano. Suspension of liposome, microspheres, microcapsules, nanospheres, microcapsules are controlled derivative. Powder for suspension मतलब क्या? If suspension has a less stability, then you can formulate that suspension into dry powder, and which can be reconstituted before the use. That can be. Am I audible to you? Topical suspension should be tested dermatologically. Parenteral suspension normally 5%, 0.5 to 5%, 0.5 to 5% solid content होता है, but may extend up to 30% in case of antibiotics, and even that vehicle are nothing but the sodium chloride, 0.9% sodium chloride, isotonic, sterilized bacterial pathogen free. Aerosols, liposome, and powder suspension. Powder suspension in case of if suspension has a stability problem, in powder it can be formulated in the powder, and that is meant for reconstitution for the use. Okay, yeah, let's see. Suspending agent, okay, to form a suspension you need a suspending agent. So compound used to keep the particles in the suspended form known as suspending agent in the continuous phase. It is also known as a thickening agent and it is classified in a different classes. Okay, so mostly they are the hydrophilic colloids. This suspending agent क्या होता है mostly hydrophilic colloids. So class cellulose derivative example क्या है उसके, for example methyl cellulose, hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose, sodium carboxyl methyl cellulose, they are the cellulose derivative. Okay, so methyl cellulose is neutral, then hydroxypropyl HNC is also neutral, but sodium carboxyl methyl cellulose is anionic. Okay, anionic means negatively charged, right? Methyl cellulose is used in the 1 to 5% concentration as suspending agent. HPMC is used as a 0.3 to 2% as a suspending agent, and sodium carboxyl methyl cellulose 0.2% weight by weight as a suspending agent. And polymers भी होते हैं कार्बोमर and povidone. Carbomer is an anionic surfactant, sorry anionic charge and used in the 0.1 to 4%. Povidone is a neutral and used in the 0.2 to 10%. Gums, various kind of gums, natural and synthetic gums are used. उसमें आएगा आपका xanthan gum, carrageenan, then acacia atragan, then sodium arginate. All gums are nothing but the anionic. तो सभी गम जो होते हैं उसके ऊपर नेगेटिव चार्ज होता है. All these are the anionic. They are used in the different concentration. Like xanthan gum is used in the 0.3 to 3% weight by weight, carrageenan 1 to 2%. Then tricantha and acacia 1 to 2%, and this sodium arginate 0.5 to 1%. Then inorganic, question आ चुका है एक बार. One of the following is known as a inorganic suspending agent used in suspension. Remember bentonite, hectorite, aluminum silicate and magnesium silicate. So they are the, okay, there is no charge, but they are the, well, here up to 2% bentonite is used as a suspending agent. This is a clay. क्या होता है? Clay होता है. Clay. Hectorite भी clay होता है. Aluminum and magnesium silicate is used as a 0.5 to 2%. Then surfactant as a wetting agent. इसमें polysorbate 80, that is most widely used. Then polysorbate 20, sodium lauryl sulfate, that is used for external preparation. They are the non-ionic, so they are used less than 0.5% weight by weight. These are the examples of suspending agents. Suspending agent. कभी भी question इसके ऊपर आ सकता है, suspending agents. Next is the theoretical consideration. We have already covered a lot of things in the colloids, but again, wetting for poorly wettable substances. Wetting agent is used amount of solvent required to wet the whole powder is a wet point. तो wetting agent use करते हैं. Wetting agent will decrease the wetting angle. Okay, and amount of solvent required to wet a particular powder is known as a wet point. Now wet point is expressed as a liter per 100 gram, and mostly it is having value between 15 to 40. Wet point. Now wet point will, better is the wetting agent, lower is the wet point, better is the wetting agent. The wetting agent, the wetting power of wetting agent can be expressed in terms of wet point. अभी जो वेटिंग एजेंट यूज कर रहे हैं टू एनहांस द वेटिंग, तो उसका भी कुछ कैरेक्टरिस्टिक होगा ना, उसका भी पावर होगा ना कुछ. सो ऑब्वियसली, सो द वेटिंग पावर ऑफ वेटिंग एजेंट इज एक्सप्रेस्ड इन टर्म्स ऑफ योर वेटिंग पॉइंट और वेट पॉइंट. सो दैट इज द अमाउंट ऑफ solvent required to wet the whole powder, that is wet point, expressed the liter per 100 gram, and mostly this wetting agent will have value in between 15 to 45 wet point. Less is the value of wet point, more will be the wetting. Particle interaction and behavior in the suspension. Particle interaction. Lyophobic material मतलब solvent rating, जैसे आपका सिल्वर गोल्ड का होता है. Lyophobic material in the suspension, they are sensitive to the small addition of salts or electrolyte. Whereas lyophilic material they are not. Okay, so they can be tolerate large amount of electrolyte. Lyophobic, okay, lyophilic material such as gum, they are readily weighed by water, and if large amount of electrolyte is added, may affect the solution by salting out. क्वेश्चन आता है इसको, है ना, क्वेश्चन आता है सस्पेंशन स्टेबलाइज्ड बाय, है ना, गम अकेशिया, addition of salt will result in the salting out effect, the precipitation हो जाएगा. Lyophobic material upon dilution reverses the precipitation. Lyophobic solid जो लायोफोबिक होता है, जैसे गोल्ड का सस्पेंशन है, गोल्ड या सिल्वर का सस्पेंशन है, सपोज गोल्ड और सिल्वर का सस्पेंशन है या फिर कोई मेटल आयन का है, तो उसमें अगर इलेक्ट्रोलाइट ऐड किया तो फटक से क्या होगा, उसका कोएगुलेशन होगा, देयर इज अ फ्लोकुलेशन, देयर इज अ कोएगुलेशन केक की. सो बट अगर आपने जो सॉल्वेंट है, जो एक्सटर्नल फेज है, उसका अमाउंट वॉल्यूम बढ़ा दिया, सो अगेन इट विल बी रिडिस्पर्स. सो इट इज अ इट कैन बी रिवर्स्ड. लायोफोबिक मटेरियल on dilution reverses the precipitation of lyophilic solid. Stability of lyophobic colloid is also reduced by lowering the repulsive potential of electrochemical double layer or by decreasing the degree of hydration. Optimum concentration of electrolyte needed to effect the optimal aggregation depends on the balance. Okay, depends on the what is not balance. Depends on the valence and type of interacting ion, that is given by Schulz-Hardy rule. We have already seen this. Schulz-Hardy rule. Schulz-Hardy. Precipitating power of your electrolyte, that is given by Schulz-Hardy rule. We have seen in the colloid chapter. Okay, we have seen the colloid chapter. You can see over here the contact angle of solids, various solids in the pharmaceuticals. जिसका कॉन्टैक्ट एंगल कम होता है उसका वेटिंग ज्यादा होता है, दैट इज इजीली फॉर्मुलेट. यू कैन सी, सो these okay these material, potassium chloride, sodium chloride, lactose, they are having less contact angle, they are easily weighted and they can easily formulated into suspension. So potassium chloride has a 21 and contact angle, sodium chloride 28, lactose 30, caffeine is a poorly weighted. इसके बाद में थोड़ा सा weighting कम होता है. After the lactose, weighting will decrease. Okay, good weighting, then intermediate weighting and poor weighting. Material can be classified into three types. Good weighting, so you can see over here these are the good weighting. These are the examples of good weighting. Potassium chloride 21, sodium chloride 28 and lactose 30. Contact angle between continuous phase and solid. In case of caffeine, acetaminophen, chlorphenicol, phenobarbital, sulfarizine, they are known as intermediate weighting. You can see the contact angle of them, and you can see contact angle of this chloramphenicol palmitate and magnesium stearate. So you can see these are the poorly weighting. Can you poor weighting? Polyethylene has a high weighting angle 100. Okay, chloramphenicol palmitate 121, stearate, magnesium stearate 121. They are known as a poorly weighted solid. ये poorly weighted होता है, इनके लिए weighting agent यूज करना पड़ता है. Weighting agent, what is the HLP value of weighting agent? HLP value of weighting agent कितना होता है ना? Weighting agent का HLP value होता है 1 to 3. 1 to 3. क्वेश्चन बहुत बार आ चुका है. HLP value of weighting agent, HLP or weighting agent is nothing but 1 to 3. So already आ चुका है. So those drugs which are poorly weighted, they need a weighting agent. Now you can see over here the contact angle. If contact angle is 0, is known as a complete weighting. Complete weighting. If contact angle is 0 between solid and liquid, then it is known as a complete weighting. Now if weighting angle between solid and liquid is less than 90, weighting angle if less than 90 is known as a good weighting. If contact angle is more than 90 between solid and liquid, it is known as a poor weighting. And if contact angle between weighted solid and liquid is 180, it is known as a non-weightable. याद रखना है. The use of contact angle to characterize the weighting of a solid by liquid. Complete weighting angle is 0. Good wetting less than 90, poor wetting more than 90, and if it is more than 180 or 180, it is a non-wetting solid, right? There are three stages involved in the wetting of solid. कैसे wetting होता है देखो. So wetting means there is a decrease in the air water, okay, air solid air interface, decrease in the solid air interface. So for example ये solid है उसके ऊपर air है, so there is decrease in the solid air interface, okay. Then decrease in the solid liquid interface. B is क्या है, B decrease in the solid liquid interface known as a adhesive wetting. B is known as adhesive wetting. Transformation from B to C, adhesive wetting. When there is a complete layer of liquid on the solid known as a immersion wetting, known as a immersional wetting or basis of wetting. कैसे wet होता है? If you want to read in, you can read from paper. Now formation process of in process involved in the formation of suspension. So particle particles in a particles in a range of 1 to 10 micron range. Well, for steps involved in the formation of suspension. Particle in a size range of 1 to 10 micron, use of wetting and agent and use of wetting agent and dispersion of this particle in the solution. So we will get a boundary between solid and liquid. These molecules they will appear as an individual molecule. Okay. If there is an aggregation of these particles like this, known as a flocculating, known as a flocculation. If there is an aggregation of these particle in such a fashion that there is a formation of loose aggregate, यहाँ पे loose aggregate होगा, it is known as stable floc or flocculation. And reverse of the flocculation is known as a peptidization. Reverse of flocculation is known as a peptidization, peptidization or deflocculation. The breakdown of these floccules. There is a weak attractive process between interparticle. There is a flocculation. इसको ब्रेक किया जाए तो इंडिविजुअल पार्टिकल में देयर इज नोन एज पेप्टाइजेशन और डिफ्लॉकुलेशन. एंड एग्लोमरेशन एंड कोएगुलेशन में डिफरेंस है. एग्लोमरेशन और कोएगुलेशन मींस देयर इज अ development of more attractive forces and that leads to coagulation or aggregation or coagulate that leads to caking formation. This is the instability. यहाँ तक stable है. Floccules are stable. Though they are easily settled down, but they can be easily redispersed. And crystal growth. Okay, crystal growth means what? So these particles in the suspension. So upon the storage due to temperature change, well, upon the storage due to temperature change due to microbial growth, well, so there is an increase in the size of these particles. There is increase in the size of this particle known as a crystal growth, and it is known as a Oswald ripening. It is known as a Oswald ripening. Oswald ripening. Increase in the size of particle in the suspension due to storage, due to increase in the temperature, due to change in the temperature, pH, etc. Known as a Oswald ripening. Increase in the size of particle of suspension. Now flocculating agent, what they do? They decreases the zeta potential. इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. Flocculating agent will decrease the zeta potential near to the zero of the suspended charged particle and causes aggregation or floccule formation. Electrolyte like sodium chloride, potassium chloride, sulfate, citrate, phosphate, so on. So they are also used as a flocculating agent. तो example याद रखना है flocculating agent का. Flocculation also result because of the decreasing the solubility of polymer in the suspension. Oswald ripening क्या होता है? इसके ऊपर भी क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. Because of the suspension are saturated solution, particles of substances, small change in the temperature that occurs during the shelf life leads to unexpectedly rapid caking or crystal growth. This phenomenon is known as a Oswald ripening. इसके ऊपर भी क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. Sedimentation rate of the suspended particle that is given by Stokes law. That is given by Stokes law. Suspensions having 2 grams solid per 100 ml follows the Stokes law equation. Rate of settling of particle. उसका एक इक्वेशन भी था, वो आप बुक में जाकर देखो. वो सब अपने देखा है ऑलरेडी. डेंसिटी उसके ऊपर डिपेंड होता है, पार्टिकल साइज के ऊपर. Suspension having less than 2 grams solid per 100 ml will follow Stokes law. Above this it will not follow Stokes law. Negative velocity may result because of the two density involved in such a system, resulting into flocculation or creaming. Negative velocity may result because of the difference in the two density involved in the such system. Then caking क्या होता है? Formation of non-redispersible sediment within a suspension system. Major cause of caking is the crystal growth, crystal bracing or close aggregate formation. तो इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आता है व्हाट इज मीन बाय ओसवाल्ड राइपनिंग आर द एग्जांपल्स ऑफ फ्लॉकुलेटिंग एजेंट ओसवाल्ड राइपनिंग क्या होता है फ्लॉकुलेटिंग एजेंट क्या होते हैं इसके एग्जांपल के ऊपर क्वेश्चन नाउ डिफरेंस बिटवीन फ्लॉकुलेटेड सस्पेंशन एंड डीफ्लॉकुलेटेड सस्पेंशन सो इन केस ऑफ फ्लॉकुलेटेड सस्पेंशन फ्लॉकुलेशन मतलब क्या पार्टिकल्स विल फॉर्म ए लूज एग्रीगेट जैसे ये वाला पार्टिकल एक पार्टिकल दूसरा पार्टिकल लूज एग्रीगेट will form a loose aggregate and they will settle rapidly but they are redispersed immediately. Okay, particles will form a loose aggregate and network like a structure. What is meant by deflocculated suspension? Deflocculated suspension में particle exist as a separate entity, do not form an aggregate. In case of flocculated suspension, sedimentation is rapid and high sedimentation rate. फटाक से sedimentation जल्दी हो जाएगा इसका. Sedimentation rate is a slow and low sedimentation rate. Slowly process होता है sedimentation का in case of deflocculated suspension and low sedimentation rate होता है. Loosely packed sediment does not form hard cake. ये sedimentation हो भी गया it will not form a hard cake. But in case अगर deflocculated suspension का sedimentation हो गया so it will form a hard cake. In case of flocculated the cake is easy cake नहीं loose aggregate it is easy to redisperse. Suspension is not looking pleasant in this flocculated. यहाँ पे क्या है कि the sediment is easy to disperse है ना और जैसे appearance होता है suspension का in case of flocculated इतना अच्छा नहीं होता है it is not pleasant but in the deflocculated so once there is a particle sedimentation it is not easy to redisperse but this sediment suspension will have pleasant appearance in case of flocculated the floccules tend to stick side of the bottle यहाँ पे don't stick side of the bottle तो flocculated में क्या होता है कि दो पार्टिकल के बीच में वीक इंटरेक्शन होता है और लूज एग्रीगेट फॉर्म होता है उसमें सेडिमेंटेशन रेट हाई होता है जल्दी सेडिमेंटेशन होता है लेकिन वो रीडिस्पर्स भी इजी होता है दिखने में अच्छा नहीं होता है तो पार्टिकल्स है वो बॉटल के साइड वॉल पे चिपक जाते हैं डीफ्लॉकुलेटेड सस्पेंशन में क्या होता है पार्टिकल एग्जिस्ट एज अ सेपरेट एंटिटी दे विल नॉट फॉर्म ए एग्रीगेट sedimentation is slow and rate of sedimentation is also slow. Okay? Closely packed sediment is there they will form a hard cake not easy to disperse and has a pleasant appearance they will not stick to surface. Are you getting समझ रहे हैं आपको यहाँ पे तो ये important है इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ चुके हैं right so this will end the way again evaluation of suspension stability जो सस्पेंशन है उसको स्टेबिलिटी इवेल्युएट करने का तो क्या क्या कर सकते हो इवेल्युएशन ऑफ सेडिमेंटेशन वॉल्यूम फॉर आइडियल सस्पेंशन सेडिमेंटेशन वॉल्यूम शुड बी 0 क्वेश्चन उसके ऊपर आ चुका है फॉर आइडियल सस्पेंशन सेडिमेंटेशन वॉल्यूम शुड बी 0 जो सस्पेंशन होता है आइडियल उसमें सेडिमेंटेशन नहीं होना चाहिए सेडिमेंटेशन वैल्यू फॉर आइडियल सस्पेंशन शुड बी 0 बट इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल टू गेट 0 sediment so acceptable value is less than 1 तो sedimentation value वॉल्यूम कितना होना चाहिए less than 1 इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ चुका है then electrokinetic technique so इसमें measurement of zeta potential nurse potential particle size changes it is determined by freeze thaw technique then rheological studies by Brockville scometer so this will end the suspension chapter tomorrow we'll see the emulsion chapter